Okay, this is pro wrestling fans, AEW fans, and probably all wrestling fans, even if AEW is not your favorite. Some news this morning coming out that Tony Khan, the president of AEW, has tweeted with John Moxley's permission that Mox will be entering, I believe the exact words were alcohol inpatient treatment. So who knows? That could be. I think it makes it pretty clear. It's a rehab facility, and it's inpatient, meaning that I assume that would mean Moxley staying the night at this facility, wherever it is. And Tony expressed the best thing you can do is respect John Moxley's privacy and not harass him or anything. But of course, the wrestling media will have their opinions, and um, you know, it's just a thing where you wish well for the guy. Right now, he's got a lot of things going on positive in his life. He's got uh, he's got a beautiful wife. He's got a great gig with pro wrestling right now. He has probably a very high paying contract, I'm sure, with AEW. Let's see, Ahmad. Hey, buddy, how's it going? From Dublin, Ireland, Ahmad. So basically, Tony Khan, Ahmad, has tweeted that John Moxley told Tony it's okay to tell the fans, the wrestling community, that John Moxley, he's either entered already or he is entering an alcohol inpatient treatment program for alcohol addiction. And I was just saying that Moxley has a lot of good things going on in his life right now. He just had a book come out on Tuesday, Mox, I think it's the title. And he has a lovely wife, Renee Young. They just had a child this past year. I believe they had a daughter. And he's got a job with AEW where he's one of the top guys, a former champion. Um, his matches are usually he dominates. He loses occasionally. I was there at Double or Nothing 2021 when he took a pinfall when him and Eddie Kingston lost to the Young Bucks. So it's not like Mox never loses in AEW. He does lose, and he lost the title, of course, to Kenny Omega on Dynamite. But point is, Moxley's going to inpatient rehab. How does that affect the storyline of wrestling? That's a real life story, as far as we can tell. It doesn't seem to be any type of joke or any type of, it would be pretty bad if that was a storyline. So I'm assuming it's all true. But in the storyline world, John was scheduled, as we know, to wrestle Orange Cassidy tonight on Dynamite in that AEW title contenders semifinal. They just had an 8-man tournament, and most people were predicting Moxley versus Bryan Danielson in the finals, which would be on the Full Gear AEW November 13th pay-per-view. I didn't see this coming, but I did kind of say on a wrestling podcast with Bobby Wrestles last Saturday, and Maki Maki, his female co-host, I said that I wouldn't be surprised if, they did something where Moxley actually didn't get to the finals against Bryan Danielson, and somehow Orange Cassidy got some type of count-out victory, interference, cheapo win over Moxley. And an outside opponent, an outside rival came out, distracted Mox. Mox gets counted out. Orange Cassidy goes to the finals against Bryan Danielson, just for the sole reason of keeping Moxley and Bryan Danielson for another show down the line. There's also been kind of indications Moxley's been more intense recently in the ring, and some of his backstage promos have been kind of leaning towards heel work. So people are thinking that with all these new guys, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, very, very loaded on the babyface side, like huge names on the babyface side. Jericho technically is a babyface, although he's not wrestling as much. It's started to feel like, if they turn Moxley heel, perhaps he could do a thing with Adam Page. Hangman Adam Page, if Adam Page gets the title. So if Hangman Page gets the title. So the point is, Mox was right in the thick of things. He had been a guy who, he had lost that title to Omega, but he had been kind of protected. I show my support with Mox today by wearing this Mox T-shirt. It just happened to be clean, and I open up my drawer, and there it was. And to be honest, I got this T-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees. It was in one of those grab bag things. It's not my favorite wrestling T-shirt. It's very Halloween oriented, but it's not something that I typically wear just because it's kind of, I'm a big guy, and walking around with a bloody knife or a bloody pair of scissors is typically not something that most people would appreciate on a guy of my size in life. Sometimes as a man of distinction, you have to be aware of your powers and be conscious that other people don't want you walking around with a bloody knife on your shirt. So bloody pair of scissors. I guess it's two bloody knives. Yeah, it's not even one. But in any event, I support Mox. We're going to respect his privacy. And like I said, I try to keep this report strictly to the facts that was reported. There's really no need for speculation, but I mean, I can just say that I think it's great that a guy who has all these things going for him in life right now, with the child, with the wonderful wife, with the job that's, relatively cush compared to the WWE schedule in the 80s or 90s or 2000s, for him to kind of take this step and kind of, I want to get to your comment in a second. For him to take this step and for him to really cross the I's and dot the T's, or cross the T's and dot the I's in his life, and allow himself to be fully happy, I think that's great. I think it's good for him. I think it's good for everybody. It was intense. His match last week against 10 of the Dark Order, you could see that there was more blood than usual, and he kind of ripped open Dark Order guy 10's mask. I just watched that match back. There's also a part where Moxley comes to the ring and there's like a fan kind of floating around the ringside barrier, and Mox pulls that. I'll give some credit to Hameen, my buddy, Hameen Media Group, said something about he thought it was kind of a shoot or something, that Moxley looked a little intense, more intense than usual. So Hameen Media Group, Vince Russo's buddy, definitely chiming in there. Let's read this comment from Ahmad all the way from Dublin. I could see from a few months back that Moxley's face became swollen and red. Usually that's a sign of an alcoholic. My suspicions were true. Anyway, I wish him all the best. Keep up the good work, Mike. Well, you're welcome, Ahmad. And, I mean, I didn't notice that. So props to you. And who knows? I mean, I think that's, God, there's a video on YouTube. I guess I'm just going to shoot with this. I was going to hold back and not trying to bring these two guys together in any way. But there is a YouTube video that I've watched at least twice, which was some super fan of WWE analyzed the final, 6 months of Chris Benoit matches before Benoit died in 2007, and pointed out that Benoit's matches were deteriorating. And like I said, I'm hesitant to even bring that up because obviously this is a world apart. But the fan really went in there and looked at Chris Benoit's matches and how they were getting to be simplified and redundant. And it seemed like Benoit was doing less in his matches. So as wrestling fans, we're very observant. Sometimes we see things that aren't there. Sometimes we see things that are there. But I think with Ahmad just said there, you're probably right, or you possibly are right. You know what I mean? So if you see it, it's one of those things where if you notice something, even if it's not true, it's true to you, right? But we're, like you said, and you got nailed ahead. You wish him all the best. And like I said, I think it's great that Moxley, who has all these things going for him, so positive. I would imagine he can't fully enjoy all these things if he's suffering from alcohol dependency, And I guess I'm hesitant to say alcoholism, but that's what he's in treatment for, right? So obviously it's not just a drink once or twice a week. Hey, Eric, what's up, buddy? Now, I did send you if Eric, you wanted to come in and state your opinions on some things, you have to click that link I sent you, Eric. I did send you the guest link. So you have to click that, and you have to have a phone set up with a camera or a computer, even better, to get in on the action. But if you just want to comment, please do. We're talking about Moxley's situation. He's going to rehab. I think he's got this book out. And we're all wishing him the best, and that's all you can say. I mean, As far as this eliminator tournament on a very kayfabe level, on a very pro wrestling level, the question will be, I think knowing Moxley, knowing Wrestling 2021, knowing Tony Khan, Jim Ross, I think they will find a way to just bring out this storyline, and they will probably uh, just say it the way that it is. You know, just that they'll just say that um, Moxley has entered alcohol rehab, and we wish him the best, and he's going to have to withdraw from this tournament. So there's 2 or 3 ways they can do this thing tonight. They can the easy way out is just to give Orange Cassidy a bye into the finals against Bryan Danielson, which would be interesting. That would be fine. I think a better way, perhaps, is to have a couple of guys, and I'm thinking Bobby Fish versus Matt Sydal. I don't know if you want me to share that, Eric, on the thing. I will. Just let me know, thumbs up or thumbs down, if you want me to share your last comment. But they could do Bobby Fish on Bobby Fish versus Matt Sydal as the opening match or the second match on the show tonight on Dynamite, and the winner faces Orange Cassidy. And I think this is how I would do it. I'd maybe save that. I'd say, hey, tonight, folks, we have an emergency tournament. We've reworked the tournament, and in a contingency plan, top contenders, top wrestlers, Matt Sydal and Bobby Fish will compete in a match for a shot at the semifinals. The winner of this match will later on tonight, or they could even save it. No, do it tonight. The winner of this match tonight between Matt Sydal and Bobby Fish will face Orange Cassidy later on the program, and the winner will go to the finals. So what an opportunity for Matt Sydal and Bobby Fish. In China, the same word for crisis is also for opportunity. So they start this match, and Sydal and Bobby Fish say go to a 20-minute draw. And then some type of commissioner or some type of ref comes out and says, well, typically that would be a draw, and both men would be eliminated from the tournament. But because of the situation, we want to have a winner. So we're going to have a 5-minute overtime. Then they do a 5-minute overtime, and then they get to the end of 5 minutes. And then the same commissioner comes out and says, well, extenuating circumstances, we're going to have to do one more 5-minute overtime. They do a 5-minute overtime, and let's just say Bobby Fish gets the victory. Okay, so Bobby Fish gets a 1-2-3 with like 4 minutes and 59 seconds in this double overtime. And him and Sydal are both laid out on the floor on the canvas, and they're wiped out, they're tired, they're spent. And then before you can say anything, you hear Orange Cassidy's music come. That Best Friends music, the Orange Cassidy song. And fucking Orange Cassidy comes out to the ring, and he's walking slow as fuck, and he just rolls underneath the bottom rope, and he lies on top of Bobby Fish, and the referee counts 1, 2, 3. And I think that would be fucking hilarious. That would be keeping with everybody's, nobody looks bad. I mean, Sydal has gone almost 30 minutes with this Bobby Fish guy. Bobby Fish actually wins the match. He looks good, but of course he's so exhausted, he takes the pin from Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy, sloths his way to the finals and slackers his way to the finals. And so you have your fucking Bryan Danielson versus Orange Cassidy, and you had no fucking bye in the tournament. So the tournament is integrity of the tournament, and there's a little bit of comedy there. So that's what I would do. Let's talk about Eric. So Eric, I did ask you. Very good. So Eric said I could share this. I have alcohol dependency issues, so I can relate. And thanks for sharing, Eric. That's very powerful of you and brave of you. And I think a lot of fans can relate. And that's why I want to do this video, because I think a lot of people have problems. Obviously, the world's full of problems. And with the last, year and a half we've all been through, I can imagine that a lot of people that did have, maybe even borderline alcohol dependency issues or other things, now with the stay-at-home mandates and the don't go out and don't social issue, people probably, hit the bottle or hit whatever else they had out of loneliness and feeling alienated from people. So I can understand if those things got worse for people. And I'm talking about everybody, not just famous wrestlers. So Eric did give me the thumbs up to share that. Thanks for sharing. And Eric has a question. What do I think about ROH hiatus? I think they're done. I did do a nice video about this the other day, which you guys can check out. But I basically feel that Sinclair Broadcasting, Eric, which is a very right-wing agenda. If you look into Sinclair Broadcasting, you can find how they manipulate the news on YouTube. They don't manipulate the news on YouTube. There are stories on YouTube about how Sinclair Broadcasting manipulates the local news in many markets. They basically provide copy, which is, writing, that the broadcasters in these local markets, which are under the domain now of Sinclair, have to read. And they show on this YouTube video, they show like 60 or 70 different local markets, cities throughout the country, major cities, that the news anchors are reading the copy provided to them by Sinclair, which has a right-wing bent. And you might be saying, well, Mike, you're a liberal, blah, blah, blah. Well, I pick things as I go. You know what I mean? My vote is always open for whoever's the best. But when Sinclair Broadcasting manipulates people and forces these anchors, for fear of losing their job, to read this agenda-based quote news quote, that's the company that is Sinclair Broadcasting, and that's the company that's owned Ring of Honor, I believe, since 2012. So when I don't watch Ring of Honor wrestling, and I did attend, I think I've attended about 6 or 7 Ring of Honor shows in my life, maybe 7 or 8, in Massachusetts, Philadelphia, and Rhode Island. So 3 states I've gone to see ROH. I'm not going to support that company, and I haven't for the most part, and there's some good wrestlers there. I recently met a really nice guy, Flip Gordon, who I believe was under contract to ROH, and I literally met him about 2 weeks ago, and we had a great talk. He's a great guy, and I hope that he gets signed to AEW or somewhere else, Impact Wrestling or whatever. ROH is infrequently on Nessun, New England Sports Network, I believe that is. I remember that, Nessun. It's yeah, and it's one of those things that ROH, you'd find it like midnight, and here it would be on some second or third level cable thing. And the point is, I'm not going to miss ROH too much. They've had, I don't want to say a checkered past, but Rob Feinstein, God bless him. If you watch YouTube shoot interviews, about a good portion, 40% of the ones from like going back to 1995, 96, all the way until the present, are Rob Feinstein. MJF, Maxwell J. Friedman, actually used the Feinstein name initially, from what I've heard. And let's get to these comments too. So the point is, ROH has always had kind of a checkered history, and I don't need to go into all the dirty details. It's easy to find. One guy on YouTube did a pretty funny Rick and Morty thing with Feinstein. What's your thoughts on some YouTubers like Walt Clyde, who keeps saying how AEW has flaws and is neutral on his criticism, but yet praises Roman? Well, I don't think I've ever seen Walt, so I don't want to tear him apart, Juan, but maybe I will look into his stuff. Well, first of all, AEW does have flaws, and I went to about 30 or 35 AEW shows in the pandemic era at Jaylee's place. But I'll tell you this, I always enjoyed AEW more in person than I would watching on TV. And part of that is because I'm from the generation where you were motivated as a fan to go out and buy tickets to see the live event. So for me, seeing live pro wrestling is a fun thing. Eric's going to respond to that. AEW isn't perfect, but it's more enjoyable than modern WWE. I think Eric just nailed it for me. Thank you, Eric, because that's pretty much how I feel. And so I can't criticize or crucify this Walt guy, Juan, but I will say that there are a certain amount of fans, and maybe Juan, this Walt gentleman's in that group, fans, podcasters, whatever, they bitch and they complain about WWE, yet they continue to watch it. And they continue to say how great, they continue to say that WWE is better than AEW, yet whenever they watch WWE, you can see on the Twitter feeds, all these WWE fans are just miserable all the time. You know what I mean? Like they're not happy with what they're watching. They with WWE, they are constantly dissatisfied. They are constantly questioning WWE. They're constantly saying, fuck this promotion and screw this and all this is crap. Yet they continue to watch and they piss on AEW. Going back to Ahmed, who would you want to win the AEW World Title Tournament? Well, I think we're headed, like I said, I really thought that Orange Cassidy would somehow get to the finals instead of Mox, and I guess oddly enough, unless they pull something out of their hat tonight and get a different guy in the semifinals who somehow beats Orange, I would see Orange and Bryan Danielson in the finals. I guess I'm going to predict Bryan Danielson wins. And then it's a question of really who's Omega or Page. And I think it's one of these things where if AEW ever wanted to pull the trigger on, quote, a homegrown talent, tonight would be the night, right? Like tonight would be the night to pull the trigger. Not tonight, but November 3rd would be the November 13th, Saturday night, the next pay-per-view. That would be the night to say we're going to put a guy over who's one of our own, who's never wrestled in WWE, as far as I know. Hangman Adam Page, with all the indie riffy stuff he did before that, but that's a homegrown AEW talent. And that's who they kind of need to be a world champion now. Omega's kind of homegrown, but he had all that international experience and so forth. You know what I mean? So I'd say go with Bryan Danielson and can we get the title on Hangman Page November 13th and have Hangman Page versus Bryan Danielson, do something there? I guess I'd like to get away from Omega. I don't know did Omega ever have the match where he lost some epic match? I think the time is just maybe it didn't happen. Like they built up Omega, then he loses to Christian for the Impact title on Dynamite. It kind of seems like with all this influx of even Adam Cole Bebe kind of taking over the worker spot in the Elite, it seems like even the world champion Kenny Omega has kind of been, kind of left behind, or he's kind of an afterthought, to be honest with you. He did have that great match with Bryan Danielson, but it's like, who's the real worker bee of AEW right now? I'd say it's Bryan Danielson. So I say, get Bryan Danielson the tournament victory over Orange, have Orange wrestle the match of his fucking life, have Hangman Page beat Omega clean, and build up to 2 or 3 months for the next pay-per-view, an interesting match. Hangman Page defends the title against Bryan Danielson. So that's my prediction. That's what I'd like to see. These helicopters obviously don't agree with me. God. Let's see. Eric says, I'd love to see Ricky Shane Page on Dynamite or Rampage. He's a regular on the dark shows. Okay, well, I haven't seen that wrestler yet on the dark shows. Ricky Shane Page, is that his full name? I mean, for a second, Eric, I thought you were talking about like Ricky Starks versus Hangman Page or something. But you're saying, is it another guy named Ricky with a last name Page? I mean, they have Ethan Page, they have Hangman Page. I mean, there's Diamond Dallas Page who comes in every once in a while. But I mean, could this Ricky Shane guy maybe change his last name? No offense to him, but I think they've got enough Pages in wrestling. You have, the Page from Xavier Woods fame as well. Hey, Shane, what's going on, buddy? We're just discussing the Moxley situation. I'm wearing my Moxley t-shirt out of respect. Some really good commenters in here. Ahmed came in. He had a good question. I just covered that. I said Bryan Danielson. And Eric's got a great comment. And, Shane McKenna of Wrestling Fans Facebook group was there with me at an AEW show. And I think Shane would agree that the live experience, to me, is more enjoyable than watching on TV. Because for all the shows that I went to see live, Dynamites and everything else at AEW, I never felt the need that I go home, I never felt the need that I needed to go home and watch the TV production of it. No offense to Jim Ross. I know he's experiencing some issues with cancer on his foot, skin cancer, so best to Jim. But I just feel that the commentary of Excalibur, Jim Ross, and I think Tony Schiavone is actually the best commentator they have these days. You know what I mean? I wasn't that impressed by the commentary, and I enjoyed going to AEW without the commentary. RSP, he's a GCW regular and former world champion there. Also, isn't it true? I was just going to say that, a little typo on Eric's part, but yeah, and Eric's kind of the GCW Game Changer Wrestling expert in my life, so to speak. But isn't Mox GCW champion still? He is, buddy. And as far as I know, he beat your pal Nick Gage there in that babyface match, which I analyzed, and I wasn't too impressed. I didn't feel that a death match between two baby faces, although they have all that history, it didn't really work for me. I could be wrong, but I just didn't think it was a great match. I thought it did paint by numbers, but it was interesting that Moxley won. Now he's still got that GCW title. Knowing GCW, not that I'm an expert, but they'll probably keep the belt on him until he comes back, unless they think of a good storyline. And let's see. JMC comes in. Hell with the blood versus Nick Gage. It's a wonder he ain't dead. He ain't died of age. If you're talking about with Moxley, yeah, you know, it's amazing, buddy. I mean, if you think about all these matches going back in wrestling history, if you ever seen the photographs of Don Kernoodle from the match in March of 1983, the Greensboro Bloodbath with Kernoodle and Slaughter versus Youngblood and Steamboat. Hey man, I don't know if you're joking or not, but it's true. You wonder how these wrestlers, especially in the 80s and 90s, how come there wasn't more talk of AIDS with the wrestlers and all the blood? You know what I mean? Great point. Just get that AIDS thing off there, but yeah, it's one of those weird things about pro wrestling. Even now, these guys. I mean, Moxley's last match, he's got 10 bleeding all over the place. You wonder about these guys, and you know, one of the stories that we know is that guy Hannibal, who had the hepatitis. Was it hepatitis C that he contracted, and he sued Abdul the Butcher? I mean, to me, if you're stepping in the ring with Abdul the Butcher, you're taking your chances. Yeah, Hep C, I think, with Abdullah and you know, Hannibal. Hannibal's done a good job with his YouTube channel, although his voice is very creepy. GCW is growing larger, especially ROH guys coming in. Great point, Eric. I think GCW, if anyone has a chance of kind of taking this momentum from ROH, it might be GCW. You might have made a great point there, buddy, because I think AOH is oversaturated with talent. I mean, you got guys like Joey Janela, who I had a little Twitter exchange with a couple of months ago. He hasn't been seen on TV in a while. He turned on Sonny Kiss, and they just dropped that. You know what I mean? Because there's not enough time for him. With all these top guys coming in, some of these AEW originals have been marginalized because there's just not time for these guys. Interesting. Shane's commenting the AEW show was a lot of fun with you, Mike. Yeah, it was a great time, buddy. Here in Jacksonville, they will be coming back, I believe, in December, the week between December and the week between Christmas and New Year's in December. Yep. And I think that really a strong point, Eric. I'll give you credit, buddy, because GCW, if they come in strong, that would be very interesting. With saying that GCW, which I believe does pay-per-views on the Fight app, I have that Fight app on my TV, so I can order those things. I had been ordering the NWA, but they get kind of boring, to be honest with you. Interesting. I'm just seeing if I forgot anybody's comments. RSP. Well, I don't, you know, he's new to me, buddy. Ricky Shane Page, so I'll look forward to seeing him. Let's see. GCW is huge in California, and I guess they're going to get a satellite high quality there, or HQ. Interesting. So that's, you know, very interesting, buddy. And look, you know, like I said, the Chinese word for crisis is the same for opportunity. And I think that with this Moxley thing, that gives an opportunity for AEW to do something interesting with that tournament. My suggestion, which I like, of course, because it's my suggestion, but having a fill-in match between, you know, a couple of guys, Matt Sydal and Bobby Fish, it could really be anybody. And they could also show a giant curve into this thing. I mean, if they wanted to, they could put CM Punk in this tournament, have him beat some Jay Brown in a replacement opening round, have him beat Orange Cassidy, and have Bryan Danielson versus CM Punk for the finals. Seeing as though we're talking about other wrestling promotions, did you hear about XPW being resurrected? I just did, from you, Ahmed. Thanks, buddy. XPW, it's funny because my old buddy John Cronus You can see him in the movie Wrestling Son. John died back in 2007, and we filmed Wrestling Son in 2003. There's also some raw footage of Wrestling Son now uploaded to Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. I don't think I've premiered it yet. Probably premiere it tonight at midnight. So look for Wrestling Son raw footage. So Cronus, I mean, he's been gone, deceased for quite some time. He wrestled in XPW. We talk about Shane Douglas was a champion there. Chris Candido, who's deceased now. Lizzie Borden. I mean, if they brought back some of those XPW originals, like, wasn't there a girl named Christy Mist or something? And I think some of those girls were also pornography actresses, porn stars, if you would. But I think it would be interesting to see XPW. I didn't hear about that being resurrected. I always liked the Spanish commentator, like the guy who had kind of a Spanish accent. He was really good, I thought, with XPW. So I haven't heard about that, but now I have. They were kind of a blood and guts league that kind of, in a way, took the place of ECW. I used to trade VHX PW way back. Yeah, they had things like Baptized in Blood. I mean, XPW was interesting. I think their timing was a little bit off because they had just come on the heels of ECW folding, or there was some overlap. I know there was some overlap. I think XPW even invaded an ECW show once and like got kicked out or something, going way back. Orange Cassidy was a regular in GCW. See, this whole GCW thing, it's new to me. I know Eric's a big enthusiast. They had the national exposure because of the Nick Gage Dark Side of the Ring. I can't say I know all the history of GCW like you do, buddy. Let's see. Larry Rivera, whose real name is Pat Hoed, who's in the grind band Brujera. Was that the commentator of XPW back in the day? And we're literally talking about 18, 19, 20 years ago. But I just loved his voice, his enthusiasm. I thought he was a great commentator. And if that's the guy, I hope he's back. Interesting stuff, gentlemen. We have some real interesting wrestling conversations. And I think, look, this is why we've talked for 20 or 30 minutes now. Oh, it was a fake accent. You're saying, yeah, with the fake Cuban accent. Well, he got me because I thought it was legit. But I always liked his commentary, Larry Rivera. We're talking all this wrestling stuff this morning on a Wednesday morning. And for 20 or 25 minutes, I mean, I hate to be the one to say it, but we haven't mentioned the Evil E, the Evil Titan Tower group. So my point is always there's more to pro wrestling than WWE, and WWE hates that. WWE hates that there's more to pro wrestling. If you really think about it with pro wrestling as an art form, as a sport, whatever you want to call it, it's not that hard. You have a ring, and you have wrestlers, and you have some type of venue. And we learned in the past 2 years, you don't even need fans. If you can support it through television, if you can get revenue without a paid audience, you can have a wrestling show without fans. GCW, crazy hardcore legend, Shiak is joining the Rob Black Army. God, I don't want to. Is Rob Black still alive? That's a legitimate question. I thought he had passed away. I could be wrong, but if he's alive, good. But I thought Rob was no longer with us. Wasn't there a guy in XPW who had like his thumb cut off or something? Was that Rob Black or was that somebody else? But you tell me, Eric, because you know more about this than I do. Are you saying Schlack? Not Shiak, Schlack. I remember who was the bald guy who wrestled for. There was a bald guy with a kind of a cool name who was like in all the XPW hardcore matches 20 years ago with the barbed wire. He was bald and kind of chubby, but he was pretty good. He was entertaining. His name is escaping me. It's on like the tip of my tongue. Bald guy. He was always wearing the crimson mask. Anyway, if you remember who I'm talking about, throw it in there. Begin with an H or something. That's what I like about Controlled Hardcore. It goes back to the Carney circuit. Yeah, I know Eric's a big hardcore wrestling fan, deathmatch wrestling fan. I like it in moderation. Like I said, if you watch wrestling, yeah, Supreme's exactly what I was talking about. Good one, buddy. Yeah, Supreme wasn't. Is he still alive? I mean, you tell me, buddy. I can't remember. I remember a couple of years ago I was doing a wrestling video and I said something about Brian Lee being dead. Primetime Brian Lee. And I said, man, I really miss that primetime Brian Lee. And someone said, hey, he's not dead. So, I mean, sometimes we think that all these wrestlers are dead from the 90s, but they're not all dead. Supreme was good. I liked him. They should have like a little Hall of Fame thing for him if he's still around. Well, like I said, there's more to pro wrestling than just what's the mainstream. There's all these other groups. These fucking birds can shut the fuck up. I'm sorry to hear that. Supreme sadly passed on. His daughter is a wrestler. And, I'll just be honest with you. When I hear something like that, the first thing that comes to mind, Eric, is she hot? You know what I mean? Like, how hot is Supreme's daughter? But sorry that he passed away. But that being said, is his daughter attractive? You know what I mean? Just kidding, but not really. I mean, is his daughter attractive? That's the important matter here. Those birds are loud. I'm just waking the fuck up. Rob Black is still alive with his rep. Uh, laugh out loud. Well, that's good. I'm glad that he's still with us. You know what I mean? Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. I don't know if any of you gentlemen have Audible audio books for Amazon. It's an app. It's something you can get or not. But I mean, I've been listening to this thing. I was going to do a report on it, but God, what's that word that Jim Ross always uses? Begins with a D. She's attractive in like a Ruby Soho type of way. Well, that sounds pretty good to me. So, what's Supreme's daughter's name? Does she have a name beyond Supreme's daughter? What's her wrestling name, buddy? This book that I've been reading by Michael Jordan, or listening to the audiobook, I should say. Good audiobook. The word begins with a D. I can't remember what it is. Defiance. I believe it's called Defiance is a book. Sage Thin, I think. If you're looking for an audiobook to listen to in your travels, gentlemen, I always listen to these audiobooks when I'm driving. Defiance by Michael Johnson, former track Olympian, world champion, Olympic world champion. Great read. Stories about Muhammad Ali, Kaepernick, the WNBA, Italian bike racing. So some good stuff. Anyway, gentlemen, Defiance, I put that over, but I will do an audiobook review because I put the time in. Thanks for joining me here, gentlemen. If there's any last comments, get them in quick. But I think that'll be about it. So once again, we pay our respects to Mox. We pay our homeless Jimmy from XCW's online also. Well, that's good. I mean, it's good that at the homeless shelter they have the online access for Jimmy. So that's nice to hear that he's got access, and they probably, teach him how to use Windows 95 there and so forth. That's always good. And give him a hot meal, a bowl of soup, a piece of bread, and send him on his way. So, folks, this has been it. It's been an interactive Wrestle Chant. We had a good time. We had a laugh or two. And I thank you all for being here. It's only Wednesday. You know what that means. We get the whole week to fuck up. But looking forward to seeing how, like I said in the past, let's see how AEW handles this situation tonight. Let's see how they do with this tournament. Let's see how they. Let's see what they do. You know what I mean? Let's see how they handle this. But I gained a lot of respect for. I gained a lot of respect. I think you're talking about homeless Jimmy still. He's a former Israeli soldier. I gained a lot of respect for AEW when they handled the death of Brody Lee with, I thought, a lot of class. I thought the tribute to Brody Lee was probably the best, wrestling show that's a tribute to a deceased wrestler, a friend, a colleague, an inspiration for some of these guys. November 7th is the first Rebirth show for XPW, according to Rob Black's Instagram. Thanks, Ahmed. Appreciate it, buddy. So I'll go back to that. Interesting. I wonder if that's going to be a pay-per-view, if that's just going to be a house show, how are they going to do things, if they're going to have the old VHS cameras rolling. That would be interesting. But, yeah, it'd be interesting. With the Fight Network, I mean, not to say that Fight Network accepts anything, but they kind of do. So if Rob Black has got the phone number for Fight, maybe he can get that on pay-per-view. So for those that want to see it, they can see it. I mean, GCW is making strides. I know some people watch those. I did actually get a ticket for the movie theater for AEW Full Gear. I just purchased my ticket, so I'll be in the theater. Hopefully there won't be anybody sitting next to me in the theater. But, yeah, it's been an interesting Wrestle Talk. We have all these things going on. Pronouns, pal. His son has a job there as long as AEW is open. XPW is going to be on Fight Sunday. Okay, thanks. So that's coming up this Sunday then. Now, his son, who is his son? So you got to clarify, buddy. You got to. I'm not sure who you mean by his son has a job there. If you're talking about Rob Black or if you're talking about Homeless Jimmy. I mean, how did Homeless Jimmy have a son if he's homeless? Oh, okay. Brody Lee. Very good. Yes. Brody Lee has a job there as long as AEW open. Yeah, and that was nice. I mean, like I said, some people have been critical of negative one. Brody Lee's, he has actually two sons. The other one's just too young to be involved. I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I think it's a nice thing that they're helping Brody Lee's son cope with the loss of his father. It's great. At the same time, it's a little bit much at times. I think maybe just put the kid on the back burner, let him sit in the audience, let him enjoy the shows, but you don't have to have him in all these storylines and angles all the time. Just my opinion, with great respect to the kid and his family and the widow and Brody Lee. But I do feel that they push that a little bit too much, in my opinion, too. Or at least that's how I feel. No offense to anybody. All right, gentlemen, it's been a great wrestle chat. We wish our best to Mox and blah, blah, fuck, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Look for Wrestling Son if you want to catch up, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, EW does a good job, buddy. They do a good job. Okay, subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.